Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Office Bloke Daz.
And I'm Office Bloke Max.
Here we are, just two of us today. How the world's biggest song caused Gotye to quit. Yeah, we know which song it is, don't we?
Of course, it's somebody that used to know.
Yeah, somebody used to know. Yeah,
great song.
Yeah, I don't know the story behind it, but I've never heard of him any other time. I thought they were one hit wonder, and that was it. But
no, it's just him. Gotye, just
I guess he quit.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Somebody that I used to know is both one of music's greatest success stories and biggest mysteries at the same time. This was a song made by Gotye at his parents' home that went on to be a global phenomenon. I have a copy of it here, and here's everything he's made since. For an artist who started making music in his bedroom, it was a dream come true. But when it did, he turned down millions of dollars that the song made, and announced that there would be no more new music. What happened to Gotye?
What's a blinder of a song, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was an amazing
Gotye
song.
started making music at home in his bedroom. There are a few ways you can do this if you're on a budget. Recording all the instruments yourself or using virtual instruments. But another way which Gotye used extensively is sampling. Sampling allows you to take an extract from an already existing song, and with a bit of manipulation, you can start to create something original of your own. But unlike many other musicians that use sampling, Gotye manages to really cleverly weave this together with songwriting. This makes perfect sense when you hear him talk about his influences.
I guess I listen to lots of different kind of, I'd say, left field pop music. Or, look, some of it might be considered quite mainstream for some people, but I really like artists like Kate Bush, Peter
I actually never
Gabriel,
knew that.
Depeche Mode, KLF, bands who kind of work within kind of pop music world, but I think do something really refreshing and exciting.
But his greatest influence from his creative process came from sampling.
Sample-based artists have had, quite an give me a lot, kind of ideas for how you can make music by pinching small bits of sound and collaging into new songs.
This crossover between songwriting and sampling is clear just by listening to some of his early songs, like Learn a Little Givin' and Lovin', which contains a drum sample from the Ronettes' Be My Baby.
Yeah, you can hear that, can't you?
And Out Here in the Cold, which samples Nina Simone playing piano. And this do-it-yourself approach to music making stretched beyond the music itself, with Gotye hand-drawing the tracklist to all 50 copies of his debut EP. It's perfectly fine to aspire towards a more traditional route of having a team of people working in an expensive studio, but Gotye never worked like this, instead preferring to stick to his own path. And this isn't a bad thing. In fact, if you can do this in a creative way, it's much more authentic than trying to be something you're not.
Yeah, so I kind of started just collecting anything and everything that looked interesting to me and that I had no idea what it sounded like.
And this is where Gotye first found success, finding sounds and inspiration from his own life and turning this into a creative way of making music. And not only playing around with sounds and ideas, but transforming this into a finished product, all on his own. But it's also not fair to say that Gotye wasn't searching for mainstream popularity and success. He would send CDs of his music to every radio station and record label he could find, following up with a call after they'd been delivered. And after a couple of years of releasing some singles and demo EPs by himself, in 2003 he was offered his first distribution deal. So he compiled some of the music he'd made over the last couple of years and released his debut album, Boardface.
The first album was kind of a result of maybe 3 years of just starting to discover sampling for the first time, having a computer at home that was my own that I could make music on for the first time and just making lots of tracks.
How old's that computer?
40 tracks. And then the 10 or 11 tracks that are on Boardface, just felt like the right collection from everything I'd finished in that time.
Although the album mostly stayed within an Australian audience, it was met with positive reviews, and most importantly, it gave validation to Gotye's creative process. Everything seemed set for Gotye to continue making more music and to continue reaching a wider audience. But everything was about to change, and his creative process would have to change with it. In 2004, the year after his debut album was released, his parents decided to sell the house where Gotye had been living and making music, and this left him at a loose end. He spent the following year moving between different shared houses, taking his homemade studio with him, and working normal jobs to try and sustain his music making. Not only was it physically more difficult to find a consistent working environment, each space offered different acoustics and palettes of sound. If you're impressed by Gotye's creative process, my next video is going to be on the Beatles' work ethic, so make sure you subscribe to see that.
Good channel,
Gotye had
this.
an important strength, which was to find inspiration from the world around him and turn this into music. For many musicians or artists, limitations or barriers to creativity can lead to overthinking or making excuses, which is understandable if you're moving between different spaces and having to use different equipment. But what was so great about Gotye is that he realised that these limitations could actually be a source for creativity. And embracing and working within these limitations results in music that only he could have produced. His debut album was full of sounds from his parents' record collection and record shops in Australia, and his second album is full of sounds that reflect this difficult time, moving between shared houses and different jobs. Even the name of this second album, Like Drawing Blood, is a reference to the difficulty in just making it.
Well, that album was obviously named after the suggestion that it was a difficult experience, that it was like, taking a part of myself, or lifeblood. It was a hard album to write for me because almost heaps of times, at least every month in the maybe 2 years that I spent writing the record, I was ready to just kind of go, what am I doing? This is no good, or it's too hard, or I'm never going to, finish an album. So it was quite a challenging thing to continue to go, this is worth keeping to do and, keeping going with this.
Like Drawing Blood gave Gotye the greatest commercial success he'd seen so far, with the album going platinum in Australia and winning a number of awards as well.
Oh.
Although he was yet to break through internationally, the success of the album exposed him to a new audience and allowed him to continue touring, and also gave him the financial freedom that he'd been lacking so far in his career.
I guess as an independent musician, I think over the last 5 years, putting out my own records, one of the things I found the hardest at the start, trying to do everything myself, was just, getting access to things.
But the real
I'm wondering if that's somebody I used to know was on one of them albums.
What then blew up later on?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Because his album's gone platinum.
But is that platinum in Australia? Or is that all
In
over?
Australia, yeah. But I'm wondering if that...
pretty good
Yeah,
going,
but
to be
it's
fair.
platinum anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you've got that with that song not on it, and that's the biggest song, one of the biggest songs. But it says there the world's biggest song. I don't know if it's the world's biggest song, but
It was at some point.
It's
yeah.
huge. Sort
Yeah,
of thing. But I'm
like
wondering if it was on
2012.
one of them albums, just unreleased. If you know
It's
what I
not a
mean.
bad shout, yeah.
success for Gotye was that the album allowed him to establish a permanent home to make music. The only question now was what lied ahead for Gotye. With a permanent space and growing audience, Gotye was able to spend more time crafting music than ever before. As always, this music would demonstrate Gotye's ability to take inspiration from his own life and turn this into music. Only this time, it would be more personal and introspective. His third and now final album, Making Mirrors, was in many ways a return to an earlier time in his life. The title is inspired by some of his father's artwork from the 1980s, and the artwork was again created by Gotye, only this time in Photoshop, rather than hand-drawing every copy. But there was one song in particular that captured this new era in Gotye's life.
His third album.
Somebody That I Used to Know. Like much of his earlier work, the song was crafted from a selection of samples. The opening guitar riff comes from Louis Bonfar's instrumental Seville.
I didn't know that.
I'm honestly amazed how many samples are in this song and how well Gotye has used them. Considering most of them are from the 50s or 60s, they sound so good in this production. But the song also drew inspiration in another way. Gotye has repeatedly stated that the song isn't about any one particular person or breakup.
It's a bit of a mixture of various reflections on relationships and experiences from over the years. There's an element of fiction in it as well, but again, it was a response, what the song ended up being about was a response to a sound. The little guitar riff that starts the song off was the first thing that I found, and I don't know, it had a certain hypnotic pull to it, and it was a response
Absolutely.
to that
Yeah,
that made me
very
start the
rhythmic.
kind of very low, reflective, melancholy verse lyric.
The song is a two-part dialogue between Gotye and Kimbra, representing the two people going through a breakup.
I didn't intend it to be a two-person song from the start, but when I sort of got to the end of writing the first chorus, it didn't feel like there was anywhere else for my character to sort of go. It didn't feel like there was any more story to tell. So that prompted me to write an alternative perspective, the other side of the coin.
The song was released as the second single from the album Making Mirrors, and at first it took a few weeks to climb the charts, not receiving that much airplay from radio stations. When it was released in the US, it debuted at number 91, but those who did hear it absolutely loved it, and it started to gain popularity. Ashton Kutcher and Katy Perry shared the song on Twitter, and the video gave the song a certain branding. It's quite unusual that you can share a single frame from a video and instantly know what the song is.
That it hasn't been by any kind of conscious construction to try and fit the current mould of pop music. You know, it's taken me by surprise. I really didn't expect this song to sort of, you know, be a pop crossover song.
It's really special. Everyone's connected with that song on a, you know, worldwide kind of scale, and I still think back to that day when Wally came round with his mic, you know, to my house, and was sitting in my room talking about the track, and you know, singing my vocal takes. I wouldn't have had a clue that that song would be sitting up with Justin Bieber and, you know, Lady Gaga on the charts.
The popularity of the song just continued to grow, eventually reaching #1 in 23 countries.
Wow.
The song won 6 ARIA Awards and 2 Grammys, and perhaps most impressive of all, Prince said that he loved it.
And the Grammy goes to... Oh, I love this song. Somebody That I Used to Know, Gotye.
Somebody That I Used to Know made Gotye a global success, and then nothing. There were some follow-up singles from the album, but there's never been another album since this one. And it's not that he just hasn't gotten around to releasing any new music yet. He has officially announced that there will be no more new Gotye music. So, what happened to Gotye? Well, as you may know, Gotye isn't his real name. His real name is Walter de Backer, or Wally for short. And Gotye is just a stage name that he uses for this one musical project. Similar to how Childish Gambino is a project of Donald Glover, or Tame Impala is Kevin Parker. And after the success of Somebody That I Used to Know, Wally returned back to another one of his musical projects, The Basics, which is a band he's been playing with since 2002, almost as long as he's been working on Gotye. And actually, The Basics was expected to be a more commercially successful project than Gotye. Since the last Gotye album came out, they released 2 studio albums, plus an EP and a number of live albums. So Wally has definitely been busy with new music, just not as Gotye. For many artists, this meteoric success will be a springboard for more and more music. But Wally is actually hidden away from it. The video has over 2 billion views on YouTube, but he's turned off the ads, meaning he doesn't make any money from it. And the money that he does make, he has to give away 45% because he used samples. Gotye's success came from authenticity. It came from creating music about his life and using sounds from his life. Whether this was from the difficulty moving around when he was making his second album, or the more personal style of a breakup song like Somebody That I Used to Know.
I have more and more people telling me, you know, I must be so overjoyed and amazed by the success and the bigness, how big everything's getting. But, you know, the bigger things get, the less likely they really ever are to be sustainable or to be, you know, personal.
The life of fame and stardom wasn't what he wanted. It wasn't who he was, and it definitely wasn't musically inspiring. Perhaps this is why he's continued to make music, but with the basics instead. It seems strange because for so many musicians, it would be a dream come true for so many people to fall in love with your music. But it was this authenticity that gave Gotye such success in the first place.
Perhaps maybe I feel a tinge of regret when I sense that when things get to a certain scale, when things get sort of maybe too big, it's really hard to keep it personal. I think there's a scale beyond which where you can't really truly communicate with a large number of people.
If he was trying to please an audience, he likely never would have used these samples, or turned the song into a duet to tell 2 sides of the story. Rather than Gotye trying too hard to make a follow-up album, instead he was content letting things be.
I think there's good things I've made in the past, and I'm proud of most of what I've done, but still don't think I've made a really great sounding record.
No?
So I'll keep aspiring to that.
Maybe trying to do it in a way that goes back to being more independent at some stage, like smaller releases that are more one-off, that maybe they're less pop, I don't know.
I don't want to speak for him, maybe in the future he'll decide to release some new music again, but at least for now we remember Gotye as being something genuine. And if he does decide to release some new music, we can be sure that it's an authentic insight into his life.
That's a great story.
It's a great story. Great video as well.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's a good channel.
Yeah.
It's but yeah, when you got a story like that where someone just made a, like you say, one of the, everyone knows that
Global
song.
sensation, yeah.
I don't think of anyone who wouldn't know what that song is. Just
Yeah.
even by when it first starts as well. The first riff that it comes out, you know straight away what song it is.
It's so hypnotic. It's straight in your brain. I really like him. Gotye himself. He just seems like a really nice and relaxed guy. Like he's not someone that chases fame, and I think you can really sense the authenticity of people.
Yeah, and that's what I liked about the story. It was very authentic.
Just wants
Sort
to
of
be
the
in.
way- yeah, enjoyed that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I hope you guys did as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you on the next one.
Cheers.
Cheers.